So before I get into this video, I do want to have a couple of clarifications real quick. One, I watched most of this game. I did not have it aired, so I tried to watch most of the highlights and I watched most of the fourth quarter. But B, try not to overreact too much because it's only week 3, but man, this was embarrassing. The Packers lost to the Cleveland Browns 13-10. It was 10-0 going into the fourth quarter, and the Packers completely blew it as a whole team, the offense, the defense, and the special teams. Before we get into the video though, if you are a Packer fan, subscribe to me because I am a Packer fan, and if you're a Packer fan, you should follow your fellow Packer fans. But if you do like NFL content, also subscribe because I do power rankings and other reaction videos. But let's get into it. So there's a lot I want to break down here. I don't want to make this like a 30-minute video, but I'll try to aim for 15 to 20 minutes. But there's just a lot to talk about in this game. So the Packers, like I said, they lost 13-10 against the Cleveland Browns, the first road game. This game was a comfortable lead in going into the fourth quarter. I believe like halfway through the fourth quarter, the Packers had a 93% chance of winning, and then everything hit everything just went wrong. So first, we're going to talk about the Packers defense. And before I actually want to get into that, I give the Browns a lot of credit here. The Browns completely deserve this win. It was a hard-fought battle. Browns fans, you deserve this win. Let me say that real quick. But Joe Flacco went 21 for 36, 142 yards, and no touchdowns. He threw that really bad interception late in the second quarter. I think it was right before halftime. He also got sacked 2 times. Quinshon Judkins also had a nice little game, 18 carries for 94 yards. He had a 38-yard run. Also that touchdown, coming off of Jordan Love interception. But the Packers defense, when it came down at the end of the day, they only gave up 13 points. They didn't give up a point until at least the fourth quarter. Like I said, it was like halfway through the fourth quarter. So if you're sitting here at the end of the day, well, I'm filming on Monday. So at the end of the game, if you're saying the Packers defense blew this game, the Packers defense lost the game or anything like that, you obviously did not watch the game. The Packers gave up less than 200 yards passing again. He didn't have a passing touchdown. His quarterback rating was a 55.7, I believe. And again, the running game, besides that one long run for 38 yards, held Quinshon Judkins pretty good. And the defense can only do so much because, again, you had the Packers offense who did nothing, and we will talk about them in a second. But Micah Parsons had like 8 pressures. He didn't get a sack today, but he had like 8 pressures. Lucas Van Ness had a nice little game. Quay Walker had a nice little game. Isaiah McDuffie had a nice game. Of course, Rashawn Gary had 2 sacks. Again, the Packers only had 2 sacks today. And we were pressuring Joe Flacco all game. And again, they didn't score until the fourth quarter. And the defense, I'm praising them a lot right now. And it's, again, they deserve to be praised because they had some good plays. But they also had some bad plays. They had a couple of pass interference that led to first and goal. We had a couple of 3-and-outs where we're supposed to be until holding calls on defense. So there's a lot of stuff to work in the secondary, at least when it comes to pass interference and holdings. But for the most part, the Packers front, the defense and, the linebackers and the defensive line, I thought they did a really good job. Like I said, pressures all game. They made the Browns offensive line look pretty bad too. But again, the defense can only do so much when your offense is not doing anything about the ball. But yeah, let's talk about Jordan Love. So Jordan Love went 18 for 25, 183 yards and a touchdown. He also threw the worst interception probably in his career. He also got sacked 5 times, guys. 5 times. Josh Jacobs did absolutely nothing with the ball. 16 carries for 30 yards. He was getting stuffed all game. Emmanuel Wilson did okay with 6 carries and 25 yards. But besides that, the whole unit had 81 yards on 31 attempts. The longest run was by Jordan Love with 10 yards. Packers offensive run game, nothing. The only positive thing I can say about the Packers offense was Matthew Golden. At least he had 4 catches for 52 yards. He had that 34-yard seam route, which that was in the fourth quarter, I believe it was. Pretty good catch. Good game by Matthew Golden. He didn't drop any, so he had 4 catches on 4 targets. But Josh Jacobs had 5 catches for 44 yards. Watching this Packers offense was so different compared to the first 2 weeks against the Lions and Commanders, because when against the Lions and the Commanders, the Packers were passing the ball down deep. They were doing all kinds of crazy plays. They were literally the most explosive team in the first 2 weeks. And this week, when it came against the Browns, they didn't pass anything over 15 yards besides that, Matthew Golden catch, like I just mentioned earlier. The Packers, like, a whole bunch of swing routes, a whole bunch of screens, a whole bunch of, RPOs. Like, what were the Packers doing today? Well, technically not today because I'm filming on Monday, but yesterday, but you know what I mean. And for the most part, Jordan Love did okay today. Granted, he had a couple of bad throws, and obviously that interception was terrible. There was like 4 or 5 Browns defender in that area compared to whoever he was thrown to. I don't even know who he was thrown to because you couldn't even see him. And then he got returned. That was in the fourth quarter, by the way, if you did not watch the game. I'm pretty sure you guys did because you're a Packer fan, or me reacting to a Packer fan. You're watching this video. But anyways. That interception was crucial because it was 3rd and 1, or it was 3rd and down and something, and we needed a couple of yards. And he threw that pick. And I'm like sitting there. I'm like, oh my God. At this point, the game was 10-3. So there was 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. A couple of first downs probably would have sealed the game. Again, the Browns offense has been doing nothing. So don't be too fancy. Just, try to at least run the ball, get 4th and 1, 4th and 2. Instead, he throws an RPO option to, I think it was Tucker Kraft at the end of the day. Horrible decision. I really don't know what Jordan Love was doing there. And of course, that interception was returned about to the 5-yard line. And then a couple of seconds later, the Browns scored a touchdown. And that was the first touchdown the Browns scored all game. And like I said earlier in the video, if you're sitting here and saying the defense lost the game, they blew the game because of a couple of penalties by Micah Parsons, whatever, you guys can go pound sand because this defense did everything they could. And of course, we all know the Packers gave up a few yards. It was 10 to 15 yards. Ended up kicking a game-winning field goal by Andre. I don't even know how to say his last name, but guess what? He kicked a 55-yarder, and it was perfect. And now you're looking at the box score. The Packers had 14 first downs. The Browns had 15 first downs. Also, the Packers had 61 plays and 57 plays for the Browns. Yards per play, 3.8 for the Packers. The Browns, 3.9. That's what I was saying earlier in the video. The Packers were averaging 7 yards, 8 yards a play against the Lions and Commanders. In this game, everything was short. Everything was dink and dunk, RPO, swing passes to Josh Jacobs. It was so out of the ordinary because that Packers offensive line was atrocious. We had Zach Tom and Aaron Banks going into the game questionable. Zach Tom quite literally got ruled out the first play of the game. He should have not played. I don't know what the Packers staff was doing. Even Matt LaFleur came after the game saying, yeah, it was an obvious mistake that they put Zach Tom out there because he was just not ready. And that's so not like the Packers because they are one of the most conservative teams when it comes to injuries. You can have this mild bruise and you're out for 3 weeks for the Packers. So that was interesting there. But also, Aaron Banks came out early in the game as well. I don't know his full designation, but they were both ruled out pretty quick in the game, and that showed against this Browns defense. Jordan Love, like I said earlier, he had an okay game. He had a couple really bad throws, but for the most part, he couldn't do anything because this offensive line was not holding them at all. I don't even want to look at the PFF grades because I already know they're going to be atrocious for this offensive line. Jordan Morgan had 5 or 6 penalties, it felt like. A couple of them were accepted, but no run game. There was no holes for Josh Jacobs. And I can't blame Josh Jacobs because he broke so many tackles again this game. But there was no open lanes for him at all. This Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, they were just plugging the holes. They did great. And like I said, this Packers offensive line needs to run laps for days. But at the end of the day, when your team has 14 penalties, you are not going to win games. I don't care what the score is. If the Packers had 3 less penalties, they could have won this game. I'm just so flabbergasted because when it came against the Lions, the Packers only had 2 or 3 penalties. It was phenomenal. And then the Commanders, now we beat them very well, but there was also a lot of penalties. All right, we need to kind of clear that up for next week. And it's really embarrassing because these are really most basic penalties. It's not big pass interference, calls or face mask or anything. It's the basic holding, false start, false. It's like the most basic stuff you should have cleaned up during the training camp and preseason. But these false starts are killing the Packers because I believe the third and fourth in, the very last drive for the Packers going into field goal range, it was 3rd and 4, again, false start. And that puts you 3rd and 9. And now instead of maybe doing a pass or run, you have to pass. Or, like depending on where I think the ball's at the 30-yard line or something like that. But anyways, these false starts kill drives, especially in third downs. Like, again, this should be cleaned up. Again, holding calls are going to happen. Big pass interference, that's going to happen. It is what it is. That's football. But these false starts were getting really bad for the Packers. This offensive line, like I said, ruined the whole game for the Packers. But when it came down to the turnovers, the Packers, of course, only had that one. That was an interception by Jordan Love. And the Packers picked off Joe Flacco with Xavier McKinney. A nice little grab there. But again, this defense did the best they could. I give them an A overall grade because, like I said, you can only do so much for so long. The defense, you could tell, was completely gassed in the fourth quarter. The Packers offense, they get a D-. Again, Matthew Golden, I'm glad he had a nice little breakout game, I guess you can say, with 52 catches. Or I wish it was 52 catches, 52 yards. But, week 3 against the Browns. This game was an 8.5-point spread. I mean, like 85% of people were picking the Packers. But this was a perfect trap game for the Packers. Am I pissed off about this game? Yes. Am I upset? Yes. But do I think it's the end of the world for the Packers? Absolutely not. I mean, the Packers are sitting at 2-1. And no matter what happens with the Lions game tonight, even if the Lions win, we are still sitting at the top of the division because we beat the Lions and we got the tiebreaker. And also the Vikings are 2-1. But because the Packers beat the Commanders and the Lions, the Packers are first because of the conference. So at the end of the day, I'd rather lose against the Browns than the Cowboys or, like the Eagles, of course, or the Giants, because the Browns are out of conference. Now, because, this game's not going to matter at the end of the season because, again, it's an out of conference record. We're 0-1, which sucks. Again, I keep wanting to say the same thing. It does suck. It hurts because it lost a lot of our mojo, but it is not the end of the world for Packers. And, of course, we also all know the Packers are not going 17-0. We were going to lose eventually. The Packers are still a great team. There is a lot of things to be cleaned up for the Packers. That offensive line, like I said, Zach Tom, he got hurt first play. Jordan Morgan played an atrocious game. Elgin Jenkins played horrible. Like I said, Aaron Banks came out. I don't know his full designation of yet, like his whole injury situation. This offensive line has me worried. And we're going into Dallas next week, and the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys defense is atrocious. I don't know what Jerry Jones was thinking of trading Micah Parsons because, like I said, Micah Parsons still had a good game. He didn't get a sack, but he was great in the run game. He had a lot of pressures and quarterback hits. The Cowboys defense is atrocious, so we'll see what happens there. And then we have the bye week going into week 5, and then we got the Cincinnati Bengals, who are not looking good. They just got smoked by the Vikings. So, Packer fans, relax. Of course, we need to win this game against the Cowboys because we do not want to go into the bye week 2-2, especially 2 losses out on the road, after coming off of really good wins against the Lions Commanders. Again, it hurts. This game does definitely hurt. But at the end of the day, if we can come out and smack the Cowboys or even win a close game against the Cowboys, a lot of things will be erased about the Browns game. We're going to go into the bye week, hopefully a lot healthier. Christian Watson might be back. We'll see what's going on with that. But, man, we need some offensive line help because this was so bad. Like I said, defense, you're all good. I'm not roasting you or saying you lost the game. Offense needs some work for sure. Running game, Josh Jacobs needs to get going, like I said, because the offensive line is so bad. Jordan Love had no time to throw. Again, I'm glad we got this kind of nasty trap game out of the way early in the season. I'd rather have it now instead of like in week 16 against the Bears or something like that, or week 17 against the Ravens. Like, I'm glad this game's out of the way. We were not going 16 or 17-0. We were not going undefeated. Even if we lose 3 more games, we're going to be 13-4. Think about that. Do you think the Packers are going to lose 4 games this year? We'll see. If they play like this, absolutely. Yeah, they can go freaking 2-15. But again, relax, Packer fans. It's against the Browns. It sucks. It kills the mojo. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the records, it comes down to the playoff seedings, it comes down to tiebreakers. We got the tiebreaker against the Commanders. We got the tiebreaker as of right now against the Lions. Relax. We need to win this game against the Cowboys. I do think we need to, because we cannot go into the bye week 2-2. Get this dub against the Cowboys, and then everything will be resetted. So that wraps up this video. If you do like it, hit that like button. Comment down below your biggest reaction of this game. But I'm out of here. Deuces.